Good morning and what's up, everybody? This is Brick MMA coming back after UFC Atlanta in the morning after Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru Usman. Now, I really want to start off the video by giving Usman his flowers. I kind of made the last video really short, and I was really confident about the pick of Buckley getting it done. But I think I was just getting into the hype of what that everybody else was. I was riding the Buckley train. I still am. I'm still a fan of Buckley. A lot of people were. I feel like a lot of people were kind of giving Buckley some shit about his performance, but you know, to give Usman his flowers, he's still him. He put on a really good performance against Buckley, and and yeah, but I did also want to mention I'm using the ESPN website this time because the UFC one is very buggy. Like when you scroll down, specifically for the Wellmaker versus Moutinho fight, it's like their faces like mega sized, and it's not even in the format that's usually in. So it's really weird. I didn't want to use that one. But to talk more about the fight, they start off with a very intense face-off, right? And I kind of like at first glance of it, I was kind of just like, Usman's really just trying to get in his head and stuff, or maybe he's just trying to give himself some like, there's a hair on my screen, some false confidence coming into the fight. But that ended up working well. You know what I'm saying? That ended up paying off for him. But yeah. So in the first round, Usman started off like asserting just complete dominance. Buckley had zero significant strikes in that round. just just taking down Buckley in the first minute and just holding him there, and there wasn't much Buckley could do. He wasn't able to get back up. He was struggling a lot with it. And it makes sense, especially with like a very experienced and a really great grappler like Usman, and someone as strong as Usman as well. Who I feel like that's just all that power just comes from his upper body strength, man. I think it's the muscle maturity over Buckley, because like Buckley is younger, and he said himself he doesn't really do weights. So and like there's only you can only get so strong in like, how do I say, maybe like functional strength, only doing calisthenics, right? But Usman, I'm sure Usman had like lifts weights. I'm pretty sure I've seen him lift weights, but he's also been an athlete for a longer time. So like the muscle that Usman has is definitely like, it's, I don't want to say more real, but I for lack of better words, that's just what I'm gonna have to go with. But yeah, but so yeah, after the first round, or in the first round, there wasn't much Buckley could do, and I honestly thought that shit was trash because it felt like Usman was stalling out and just trying to drain the energy of Buckley in the first round to just like neutralize that threat, and which is like a solid game plan for Usman. That's probably what he wanted. That's probably what he would have wanted to do, and definitely what he should have done. But as you're saying, like fan perspective, that first round was trash. But moving on to the second round, that shit was also kind of trash. I noticed that throughout the fight, Usman would grapple less and less, and I don't know particularly why. I think later on he didn't expect Buckley to have the energy he did, but I'm gonna talk about that in a second. Um, in the second round, Usman again just took Buckley down and held him there for a minute, or honestly, yeah, just for the entire round. And then the third, we got some. That's where we got some more stand up. I noticed at the end of the second, we did get like a small glimpse, maybe like a minute 30 seconds, um, worth of some striking exchanges on the feet, but we got more of that in the third round for sure. Um, I think there was. I don't know. I feel like just the grappling aspect from Usman being so dominant or already in the fight, Buckley couldn't plant his feet, or he felt like he. Excuse me. He probably felt as if he couldn't plant his feet very well without risking getting taken down. So, in that third round, he did manage to land some big shots, and I thought, okay, maybe not this exchange specifically, but like later on in the fight, I thought later on in the fight, Usman would have worn more damage, but I guess like the time off really did him well, being able to recover from the head kick properly, like all that long ago. Yeah, I know that shit was like a couple years ago now, but still, like it's still good to take time off of a knockout, no matter how long it is. Like the longer the better, you know. Pause. Um, fuck, I always freeze up. Like my thought process is always like running through my head, and I can never like spit it out. But yeah, and then in the fourth and fifth, um, it's just at the end of the round. That's when Usman would try to, not the fifth, but I think more in the fourth. Um, Usman was just taking Buckley down towards the end. Like he was giving him some leeway with the feet, and Buckley was still landing some shots. Um, and on top of like the taking down, like the takedowns, sorry, that Usman was getting, he was putting on a lot of solid ground and pound that managed to cut Buckley up. And I think in the second or even the first, actually, right? Oh yeah, it was actually in the first round that he busted him up. Yeah. And then, yeah, so that's what happened. Honestly, what I just said for like the last couple minutes, that's just what happened from round 1 to 4, right? And then in the fifth round, we got particularly most of the round was on the feet, because this is when Joaquin Buckley decided to actually lock in and use the training camp skills he developed in wrestling defense in the fight, right? Like you would have thought he probably would have used that um, from the first round, from the get-go. And if he did, okay, honestly, Buckley did very well in the fifth round. So I gave Buckley the fifth round. I think everybody else did, right? Because there is no other round that he could have won. He defended a lot of takedowns very well. It's weird, but he only just now in the fifth round developed the sense of urgency and quickness to get Usman off of him. Like, I'm telling you right now, if Buckley had fought the entire 5 rounds like that fifth round, he would have won. But I'm not coping. I'm not salty, right? I know I chose Buckley to win. I don't really care that Usman won, okay? Because he just did so well, and on top of that, seeing his like, oh shit, my fucking leg hurts. On top of that, seeing his post fight interview, you can see the emotions, right? You can tell this has been a hard thing for him, a hard camp, or he's been going through some stuff. Shout out to Usman. Hope everything goes well with you, man. But yeah. So I mentioned the time off. I was definitely, I'm definitely going to admit that I jumped the gun on Buckley. In respect to like their past fights, Usman did only lose to Hamzat off the couch and a weight above. He was kind of cheated against Leon too, even though I did root against him in that fight. I did root against him in that fight. He did get kind of cheated with the cage grabs. I feel like Usman could have won if Leon had gotten a couple like more points taken off of from like his cheating, right? Like holding the gloves and holding the cages and shit like that. And then you know that he kind of got fluke KO versus Leon the first time, or the second time. I mean, and Buckley, he was struggling with Wonder Boy on the feet up until the knockout, and he was struggling a little bit versus Colby, and it's also because Colby isn't as physically strong as Joaquin or Buckley. I mean, sorry. Like Colby isn't a big welterweight. He's a pretty like he seems very like small for welterweight actually, or at least in new gen welterweight. So Buckley just had that power difference, that strength difference between the two, the explosiveness as well, which helped him in defending the takedowns. And Usman is just more durable. I feel like Buckley is still very good. I think Usman is it was just a very hard stylistic matchup for him, right? And I think being able to go 5 rounds with Usman and hanging in there, I think that's something to be proud of at least. Like this is like it is a 38-year-old, almost 40 Usman, but that doesn't mean he's an Usman out of prime, right? And I know I may have clickbaited with the washed allegations, but he's beat those for sure. But I definitely like as much of an impressive performance that Usman had. I don't think he should be in title talks yet. I think because he still is 1-3 in his last 4 matches, at least recent matches as well. And if you don't want to count the Hamzat fight, he's still only 1-2 or 2-1. No, 1-2, 1 win, 2 losses, right? And these are like year gap fights. So like just off of the 1 win. I don't think so, man. I don't think so. I don't think he should keep fighting back, though. I think he definitely deserves an opportunity up in the rankings because he's only 5th, right? He's only 5th. But I feel like with this performance, Usman could only lose to the top 5 fighters. I don't think he loses to Ian Gary. I think watching that performance he put on Buckley, I think he does Ian Gary even worse. Because Ian Gary isn't as strong. He isn't as durable as Buckley. And the damage is going to wear on Ian Gary a lot more. And that's going to be held against him in terms of how the fight is going to be scored. But yeah, shout out to Usman for getting a clutch career dub for himself. But moving on to the co-main, right? I'm slightly confused. Slightly confused. Because I feel like watching the fight that I had Maverick winning up until the 3rd round. She definitely lost the 3rd round. Right, Miranda tried to start the 3rd round strong by applying the wrestling onto Namajunas, but that didn't work out. Then she got dropped pretty bad, and then Rose ended up on top half guard. But unfortunately, that's about everything significant that happened in the 3rd. There was like there's some ground and pound and some submission attempts from Miranda. Or some escape attempts, but it just none of it really panned out for her. But like I said, I think I might have seen like the 1st round wrong because I don't really understand 30-27. I thought Miranda definitely won the 2nd round. She was forcing Rose. I felt like she was forcing Rose to shoot some takedowns. And Rose was finding some good positions. She almost She almost got in an RNC in the second. She could have gotten it honestly if she had some better setup. The only thing that was missing was her putting the non-choking hand behind the neck. But it's also going to be very difficult when Maverick was pulling it off. So, understandably so. But then Miranda was able to get out, reverse the position, and put Rose into like a really tight arm triangle. Like you can physically see Rose beginning to turn red and the squeeze from the choke. And then Rose was able to get out, but Miranda ends the round with some heavy ground and pound. So I think Miranda should have. I think because I can't really remember the first round enough to specifically tell you if I think Miranda won or lost that one. But shout out Rose. I did pick Rose to win. I think she did majority of what I said she would do. I think she was better on the feet overall. I think what'd you call it? I think she was able to definitely neutralize a lot of the grappling threat from Miranda Maverick. But this is not to take away from Miranda's stock. I think her being able to hold on there with Rose is a very good performance in itself. I think if it was 5 rounds, that maybe actually no, because Miranda did look a little. They both look very tired in the third round, so I can't really say for sure. And obviously Rose has been in more 5-round fights than Miranda has, so I'd probably give that to Rose still. But anyway, shout out Rose, shout out Maverick. Both had very good performances, and I actually really enjoyed watching the fight. Moving on to the featured bout, Edmen Shahbazyan versus Andre Petroski. Now, I can't necessarily say that I enjoyed watching this fight. It wasn't a bad one, but it wasn't necessarily too entertaining for me. Shahbazyan definitely controlled the entire fight. Honestly, I wasn't expecting to see a performance like this, like that dominating, that controlling. I know the stats don't necessarily show it, but he controlled the pace for majority of the fight, right? He had Petroski on the back foot. He was putting the pressure. He was hitting him hard. You know what I'm saying? But I thought it would have been more 50-50, to be honest, like how the odds show. Hold on, I'm drinking some water real quick. But yeah, Shahbazyan was really dominating with his striking, keeping Petroski at range with his kicks and his reach. Outstriking Petroski in every round. I did say that it felt like he outstruck him nearly double, and I think the significant strikes may or may not have shown that. I think only the first round was the closest, and then just from 2 and 3 the numbers got lower and lower. But yeah, I really but I really wish I could say more about the fight, but I was getting more disinterested the more the fight was going on, because the more one-sided the fight was seeming to be. My only critique though is I feel like Shahbazyan could have pushed more for getting a finish, especially because there were definitely the opportunities to do so, but he just ended up not getting them. Like you can even see in the stats that he got a knockdown on Petroski. But yeah, and they need to stop removing post-fight interviews from selected fighters. I understand the fight wasn't that great, and it may not have gotten the finish that maybe a lot of fans expected from Shahbazyan or either Petroski. But regardless of how they won, every fighter should have an opportunity to speak freely and promote themselves. So, yeah. Moving on to Cody Garbrandt versus Raoni Barcelos. This was a solid fight. I did enjoy this one. Cody had a really strong first round. He dropped Barcelos. He was catching him a lot at the end of his longer combinations. And honestly, bro, Cody's hands are still so fast. They're still so fast. I don't know what happened to him, man. I don't know what happened to him. It must have been just like it must be just a mental thing. Like it has to be because you can see in Cody that the skills are all there. I think he just doesn't feel like he wants to do this anymore. I think he just still feels obliged to do so. Um, and he was also doing well defending some takedowns and even getting some little aura farming moments in there. Um, Teasing Barcelos after he dropped him, trying to do a little dance and shit like that, posing. Um, and then in the second, Cody was also doing well, putting more damage, causing Barcelos' eye to swell. But um, I think Barcelos. I'm trying to remember. Ah, yeah. Things turned fast as Barcelo hurt Cody at the very end of the round. Um, Also mixing in a lot of takedowns, a lot of clinching, forcing those exchanges. But Cody was also doing very well, being able to box in the clinch and wade off strikes with his footwork and movement. Um, and then at the end, I think Barcelo stole the fight. Um, Started the third round with heavy grappling, controlling Cody, and landing a lot more of the significant strikes. Cody just seemed to have like slowed down at the end, where it mattered most because of how close it was. Um, it's just sad to see. I'm definitely not an old head fan. I'm definitely not a 10-year fighting vet in terms of like watching the UFC. I am definitely a new gen fighter, but being a new gen fighter, I still sympathize with Cody Garbrandt, whose prime was before my time as a fan. Um, and I still see why he's a fan favorite now, right? And he's getting older. He's had his sad backstory. Um, he has that's literally me moments, but it's still very sad to see like the legends and the icons of the sport like really start to lose. And I thought we were getting that a lot with Volk, Usman, and Izzy. I'm not particularly the biggest fan of Izzy or Usman. I really do like Volk. I respect Usman. I kind of know. I don't fuck with Izzy, honestly. Um, I think it's sad for just to see Izzy lose, but just how he acts a lot, it really puts me off because I feel like he's a sore winner. I feel like he's a very sore winner, or he's just a very sore person. Honestly, I think it's very hard for him to give people flowers, and to accept defeat. Like he just has like this ego that just irks me. But anyway, it's not about him. Um, Sad to see Cody kind of lost himself the fight. He definitely could have won if he just I don't know. I don't know. I guess fuck. I really don't know what more he could have done. Especially because just at the end, he just didn't seem like he wanted to finish it out. I think he just wanted to have the first round. Excuse me. I think he just wanted to have the first round knockout and be out of there, and didn't really expect himself to have to stay in the whole fight. So yeah. Oh, shout out to Barcelos though, because he actually had a good call out. I think he should be fighting within the rankings now. I think I wouldn't necessarily jump to a Rob Font. Actually, no, wait. Isn't Rob Font like ranked 12 or something? Or 9? Who's ranked 9? I know Cejudo's 10. Is Song ranked 9? You know what? I think Rob Font is just barely on the cusp of top 15, so I think that's a very good call out. Unfortunately, I don't think Barcelos is going to get very far. I think he can beat Rob Font because Rob Font has such terrible grappling defense and ground defense off his back. But yeah, I think Barcelos can win, but I don't think he goes very far after that. Moving on to the next fight. Got a burp. Excuse me. Mansour Abdulmalik versus Cody Brundage. Now, my ESPN wasn't really working for the second round of this fight. But also, I don't know what the fuck I watched, right? The first 2 rounds, Brundage and Malik had like a slower approach, trying to be more methodical, more technical and stuff, filling each other out. And then Brundage just starts the 3rd round shooting for a takedown from across the cage, right? And then they just start swinging, trading and banging. And then Brundage just gets caught. And it seemed to be an accidental clash of heads because Abdulmalik went for a knee. I'm trying to go off memory. Abdulmalik went for a knee. And then I don't know what Brundage was doing. I think he tried to send up a knee, or he just was trying to cover up and stuff. And then Abdulmalik just kept leaning forward with the strike. So then their heads just happened to clash with each other. And then Cody Brundage, it just hurt too much for him, I guess. And he just ended up dropping to the ground and covering up. But I feel like I can agree with the decision of making it, of cutting into 3 rounds. I feel like maybe a no contest. I think a no contest could have been more accurate because even though this, like, striking wise, you could probably say that Cody Brundage might have won, but I think I still had Abdulmalik up in the fight anyway. It is very strange that Cody Brundage actually didn't shoot any takedowns, right? Considering I think he did, even versus, who did he just beat? Marquez? I think it was Marquez that he just beat. I think he shot a takedown versus him, but not versus the young prospect. You shoot takedowns on a 40-year-old, but not the prospect that's, if you lose, you might get cut, right? Right? Like, if you lose against him, you might get cut. But, on top of that, right, I don't know where I rate Abdulmalik ceiling-wise. Because I follow MMA Theory on Instagram, right? And they always post a lot of great content with, like, thought-provoking content. And they asked, where do we see Abdulmalik in the future? And I don't know how I feel about Abdulmalik, honestly. I think, especially with the state of middleweight right now, I think middleweight is, the top 15 is a very hard bunch to beat. And I think just outside of the top 15 is I think it's a very big jump from outside the top 15 to into the top 15. And I think there's only a few unranked middleweights that I think can prove that you can hang. So I think at the moment, Abdulmalik is still very young. He's still very green. I think just keep building him up as much as possible. I think maybe five more fights until he gets a ranked opponent. I know Cody Brundage isn't the worst middleweight in the world, but he's not top 20. He's not top 25, right? Like, even looking at his record, bro, he's 11-7. You know what I'm saying? All due respect though to Cody Brundage, but he's 11-7, and he's definitely not at the elite of middleweight. So I think he deserves, or he should be fighting 5 more fights, minimum, at this level of fighter, with obviously maybe a little progression in talent, and competition. I mean, but like 5 more like okay wins like this one, or maybe three really good performances against solid competition. I can't name. I mean, maybe like a Brad Tavares. I don't know if he got cut or not. Um, but if he manages to beat Brad Tavares and within maybe like the next year, okay, maybe we give him the 15th guy. Right, we'll give him number 15. Or or I think Korean Turtle's too much of a jump. Or is it Korean Turtle? Iron Turtle, I think. I think that's his name. I don't know his real name though. I'm sorry. Who else? I wouldn't rate a Paul Craig win, and I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that, but I wouldn't rate a Paul Craig win. Um, what's his name? Andre Muniz. I think I could rate that one. I could probably rate that one, but those are just a couple names. I think the UFC should go the long route with him to continue building him up, and so he can continue to develop, and really show how far he can go. So yeah. Moving on to the next fight, Alonzo Menifield versus Umar Sy. This one's kind of interesting. Me personally, I felt like Umar Sy did enough to win. Because if you look, he outstruck him. He got the takedown. And honestly, for majority of the fight, he had, or at least maybe from what I've seen, because this is where my stream stopped working. My stream did stop working. I missed the entire second round, so I can't honestly speak for what happened there. So it wasn't a great performance from Sy, but I'm not too surprised knowing he was going to face someone like Menifield, a well-known power puncher. It made sense that he would fight more cautiously. Good on him though for using forward pressure to keep Alonzo on the back foot, like I just mentioned. I think he may have been too cautious though. Right? I think he was definitely very scared to get knocked out. Obviously, makes sense. Alonzo Menifield, we all know who he is. He is a power puncher. But it wasn't enough. Apparently to the judges it wasn't enough to get the nod, but I don't know. I have to keep this one really short because I'm too indifferent because I don't know what I can't fully tell you who I thought should have won the fight. But you know what? I'm gonna just say shout out to Menifield. Another vet getting a much needed win to keep their job, to keep their contract, and to keep himself in the rankings. Right, defending his rank versus Umar Sy, young prospect who was formerly undefeated until tonight. But I honestly don't think Umar Sy loses any stock. I feel like if he had some more confidence, he probably could have got it done. He probably could have got the knockout. But it is what it is. I'm not salty about it. I'm a regular fan of Umar Sy. I'm a regular fan of Alonzo Menifield, so I'm very indifferent to the winner of this fight, right? But I did predict Sy to win, but I'm not upset about it. It is what it is. And then moving on to Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. Now this fight is is honestly as stupid as it gets. There is nothing I want to mention other than the fact of the fight ending. Right? I don't care about the actual fight that happened. I don't care about the actual first round. Right? I'm gonna get more water. Um, I am pretty indifferent about the result because again, I'm not a big fan of Paul Craig or Bellato. Actually, no, I'm more of a fan of Paul Craig than I am Bellato, but I didn't really care who was gonna win or lose. Excuse me. Also, because I'm not interested in how it impacts either of their careers. Like Paul Craig is definitely at the end of his career. He's kind of known for being chinny now. He hasn't really put on great performances recently either. This is also another example of that. This isn't a great one. He's not trash at all, but he's just not like a win over Rodolfo Bellato doesn't. I don't think that puts him in any position to fight up in the ranks, or I think even if he did, he would lose, right? So I think he should kind of just be like this top 15 gatekeeper until he can prove he could fight in the top 15 again. Whether he wants to do that or not, don't know. But no, yeah, this was definitely a clear foul from Paul Craig, though, right? I think I needed to mention that I'm indifferent because I can unbiasedly say that was a super illegal shot. He was definitely scared of the ground and pound from Bellato, and he very intentionally threw those up. That's not like an accidental foul that some people were saying, and I think they were trying to say that in the commentary as well. That seemed very intentional, right? Like, and Bellato's reaction to it was just as weird. He had like a fish slopping around kind of jerk reaction to it. Like he went back as if he was kind of acting like how Aljo fell versus the Yanni. That's how it looked like at first. And then he just like automatically gets up and starts crawling back to the cage. Like, what? And then he was trying to defend himself from the ref, and I didn't think the hit should have hurt that much. Obviously, it did connect very 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 cleanly, like right to the chin of Bellato. But I didn't think an up kick like that, would have gave him that reaction. Would have gave him CTE right on the spot. You know what I'm saying? But that was a very weird moment. Very, very strange moment on the card. That's all I gotta say. Moving on, I cannot speak for Chiesa versus Court McGee because my ESPN stream did not work at all for this fight. At all. I was resetting. I was trying to reset the app on my phone, on my TV, on my laptop. It just wasn't working, and I just missed the fight. But you know what? I don't really care. This fight, I felt like was going to be trash. Court McGee is 40. Michael Chiesa is 40. This was a free fight for Chiesa to come back at. All right, just two vets having it off, fighting somebody their own age, finally. But yeah, not much I can say about that one. But moving on to Wellmaker versus Chris Mutino. This was crazy. It's so sad to see Mutino lose, knowing his journey now and his emotions coming into the fight, him revealing, dark stuff. It was hard to not root for him coming into the fight. But you knew what he was coming into. I really hope that he didn't just get the one-off contract to get fucking knocked out and then get cut the day after. I really hope it's not that situation. I hope he gets at least one or two more fights, because getting 5 wins straight on the regional scenes, that means something. At least that means something. I think he does need to start with like the bottom level of talent at bantamweight, so he can really determine where he goes. But man, Malcolm Wellmaker is fucking crazy. He's fucking crazy. Not even Sean O'Malley could have dropped Chris Moutinho, or he could have knocked him out. Sorry, he could have knocked out Chris Moutinho. Malcolm Wellmaker did it in the first round and practically one-tapped him. He was doing very well with his strikes. He was landing a lot of his shots. Moutinho, he was just kind of eating it, walking in. And then it kind of just, Wellmaker was hitting the body a lot too. And then, Moutinho just dropped his hands to cover up and then just one tap. One tap with the right hook across Moutinho's whole chin, just moving his whole head to the side. And then Moutinho just slumping down. Oh, man. It was so sad to watch, man. It was so sad to watch. These are one of the fighters you really just can't root against. Moutinho, once you get to know them and stuff. But Wellmaker is just that guy now, man. He's definitely going to be, out of a lot of the bantamweights that are prospects, I think Wellmaker is the best one. I think he's better than Payne Talbot. I think he is, what do you call it? I think he's better than Montel Jackson, who's ranked right now. I think he's better than Zahabi. These are fighters I think he can beat today. Maybe Zahabi's a harder fight, but I think he can beat Montel Jackson today. I don't know about Felipe Lima. I think Felipe Lima is very well balanced, and I'm gonna make my prediction for that fight when the time comes. But yeah. And I don't think I want to mention this, and if y'all let me know in the comments if y'all know what I'm talking about. But every time I hear Wellmaker walk out, the only thing I hear, I'm sure it's some Georgian rapper song. I can't tell you who, because I'm not that old head. But it sounds like Berlisi's YouTube intro. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks of Berlisi when I hear his song. When I hear his song come out, but hey, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's me. Moving on to the next fight. This was a fun fight. I did like this fight as well. Cody Durden versus Jose Ochoa. This was an interesting first round. It had a very interesting first round. Ochoa took it. He showed a lot of great pace, a lot of clean strikes, and some very solid takedown defense. Even when he did get taken down, his ability to get up versus a very aggressive grappler like Durden. Getting up versus Durden is not easy, and even defending Durden's takedowns isn't easy. So, this is a very good win for Ochoa. I think this win for Ochoa immediately puts him in top 20 flyweight fights. I think he can fight a Charles Johnson. I think he can fight a Bruno Silva. I think he should get Bruno Silva after this. I think if the UFC really wanted to just throw him in there, they would throw him in there versus Bruno Silva. And Durden went out there in front of home crowd, really trying to put the pressure on him, but it just wasn't gonna work out. Ochoa's strikes are very clean. He's very fast, and then at the start of the second round, he just knocked Durden out. He just knocked Durden out. What was it? It was a left hook, I think, up against the cage, and then that dropped Durden almost instantly. And then as he got on the ground, that's when Ochoa started putting on some more ground and pound. And then you can low-key just see his soul, like Durden's soul, leave his body, like just going unconscious. And it was almost like cartoony, like the way he goes into like fetal position after the ground and pound strikes. Yeah, that was kind of crazy. That was kind of crazy. Jose Ochoa is definitely one to watch. It's very strange though how he gets his opportunity over. All right, so like I would say Cody Durden is absolutely outside the top 15 of flyweight because he was just ranked top 15. But I think it's strange how Loner Kavanaugh beats Jose Ochoa, and then Jose Ochoa, timeline wise, gets a fight faster to the top 15 than Loner Kavanaugh. I know Loner has his fight versus Charles Johnson booked, and then Charles Johnson is, I think, ranked maybe like 13. But, or no, is he 15? No. Is he 13? I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's top 5. He's top 15. And if the UFC really wanted to, they could put Jose Ochoa in top 15 just off this win, or just off this win. So I just think that's kind of interesting. But moving on to the next fight, Ricky Simón versus Cameron Smotherman. This went exactly how I thought it would. I thought Simón was gonna out-grapple Smotherman. Like I said, just using his experience, just using his overall strength and muscle maturity over Smotherman. Even outstriking him in a lot of the rounds. But I can't say the fight was very interesting. Smotherman is good. I think this just shows he can hang with the top 20 bantamweight. But it was a really big jump in competition, especially someone more experienced and stronger against someone more experienced and stronger. And I feel like, honestly, you can kind of just say more skilled for at the moment. I think Smotherman is very talented. I think he can make a lot of improvements and become a very solid fighter. But I think just currently this wasn't gonna happen. Like the upset wasn't gonna happen. Wait, hold on. Minus 450? I gotta be honest. I thought the odds were against Simón in the pre-fight. I didn't think it was gonna be like that much of a difference. So shit. Now I kind of sound like a casual saying saying everything I just said. But yeah, this isn't a bad performance from either or. I think Ricky Simón should now be able to should get maybe like one more before another top 15 fight, because I think this card was kind of interesting because a lot of them had subliminal rank implications. You know, if Smotherman had won versus Ricky tonight or last night, he would have already been in talks with like just another outside the top 15, or maybe just another top 15 fighter at bantamweight. And like I said, like Jose Ochoa, if he would have, in it with his win, he now has some ranked implications. He can now start having some ranked talks with the UFC. Cody Durden, had he won, could have had some as well. Wellmaker, this is a top 15 statement win. Chiesa, no, not really. But no, those two not so much. But with Simón versus Smotherman, those talks were definitely implied, right? With the good performance and good win. And now moving on to Phil Rowe versus Ange Loosa. What did I tell y'all, man? What did I tell y'all? I went for underdog Phil Rowe, hitting for the underdog with my predictions. Ooh, ain't no better feeling, bro. Ain't no better feeling. Loosa was doing a lot better than I thought he would, though. In the first round, Rowe got taken down and wasn't able to get back up. Loosa was just kind of trying to get some pitter-patter ground and pound in for the points up in the first. But, you know, that was just from like first minute to last. And then in the second round, Um, Lusa and Rowe were going back and forth. Lusa was landing more early on, getting really solid strikes in through Rowe's guard. And just Rowe's lack of head movement. I think that he needs to work on that. Definitely needs to work on that. And then Rose starts putting the pressure back on Lusa, starts putting the hands on him, touching him up, using his range and his boxing. He's hitting him hard. Like, these are hard shots. I think, no, this isn't the round his mouth guard fell. That's the last round. And then Lusa comes back, begins to counter strike with Rowe, landing some strong strikes, and dropping Rowe at the end, and then landing on the ground, with the both of them on the ground. And then in third round, this is where shit got crazy. Phil Rowe gets the KO. Right, this is a pretty gnarly KO too. I don't even use that word, but that was a nasty KO. Rowe knocked Lusa's mouth guard out during one of the on the feet exchanges in the earlier round. And then he just starts to put a lot of pressure on him. And then he's starting to land hard shots. And then Lusa definitely felt those shots and kind of started to like just shell up a little bit and kind of just be stagnant with his movement. And then Rowe just holds his head up with one hand, with his left hand, and then just boom, 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 just hitting, just banging his head against the cage with the recoil off of the punch. And he's just holding his head still. Like, that shit was nasty. I think Lusa took a lot of unanswered shots. I think he was definitely unconscious way before the ref even stopped it. I said you can see like dirt and soul leave. You can dead ass look at Lusa's face and he's already unconscious by the time the ref stops the fight. After he took like 10 of those, he took like 10, 15 of those hard shots. And I think he was done after like the fifth one. That was a pretty scary KO. But that was crazy. I told y'all, man. I told you I have Phil Rowe. But Lusa isn't bad. I don't know what happened at the end. I think he just struggles with opponents with like a lot of range on him. So, but shout out to Phil Rowe for getting the win. Also, shout out to him and his mom. He said that she was struggling with her battle with cancer. So, hopefully all goes well with that. And shout out Phil Rowe. And then for the first fight of the card, James Lynn Horth versus Vanessa Demopoulos. I gotta be honest, I disrespected them in my last video because I didn't even give them a prediction, but I couldn't have. I didn't really know anything. But now I can. They had a really fun first round. I feel like Demopoulos was doing very well in the beginning, staying within boxing range and her range because she's a lot shorter, and not giving Horth room to like really work with her reach. And then towards the end, Horth kind of, I guess maybe she was just feeling her out, letting her work and stuff just to see what kind of opening she was gonna get. And she just kind of locked in. Just hitting really big shots down the middle, a lot of teeps throughout the fight, and wobbling and taking down Demopoulos at the end of the first. And the second round, it kind of slowed down. Demopoulos definitely was wearing a lot of damage from Horth's body kicks and straights. She was hitting a lot of those straights, and I know, bro. I ain't gonna lie, she's kind of man built. Like, just slightly. Like, I know she has power. I know those shots hurt. But, Demopoulos, she's a dog. She was just pushing through the entire fight off of just grit and will. And in the third, Demopoulos is only running off of pure grit. Just repeatedly trying over and over to get a takedown. In submission attempts, but failing to get it. And I don't know, maybe maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like Horth didn't want to finish her at the end. I feel like she had every opportunity to do so. And, you know, maybe if it wasn't intentional, um, that she needs to work on her finishing instinct. Like, I think when you see an opponent like Demopolis in front of you, and you're the fresher fighter, and you know she's obviously tired, she's already damaged. I think you need to go. You need the incentive to go for the finish, for the knockout, or submission, whichever one. There really wasn't anything that Demopolis could have done in that third round. I don't even remember her landing any significant strike at the end, to be honest. Maybe like one or two. Um, yeah. Actually, no. She did have a moment. I think she did. She went for the takedown, or she faked the takedown, and it landed a nice overhand. Didn't wobble Horth much, but you can tell that she kind of felt it. That she may have been worried about it later on. I would say, regardless, shout out Horth for the win. But I would say that she may be somebody to watch. But she's also 35. So I don't know how far she's going to go in her career before she starts to decline. Right? She has a lot of the skills present already. But I don't know if she has a long career in front of her. I think she can have a solid career, a solid short career. I don't know how I feel about a long career or even in the rankings. But that was my reaction to UFC Atlanta. Like, comment, subscribe. Oh my god, shout out to y'all, my community, for 50 subscribers. It really means a lot to me. I do want to start dropping more content. I do want to start being more consistent with it. I have a new series that I'm working on. I'm gonna just debut it now. It's called Who Fights Who, and it's my post-fight or my post-fight night matchmaking, right? Where I choose or I talk about who I think the winners and losers of the card should fight next. Maybe not the entire card, maybe more just like, because my ball knowledge isn't that crazy. So I would say I'm mainly gonna do maybe just fighters that got impressive, that had impressive performances, a crazy knockout, and absolutely the main card fighters. So I think I'm gonna do the main card fighters and one or two honorable mentions for the rest of the fight, for the rest of the fight card. But yeah, thank you all so much for subscribing, watching my content. I had a lot of people from Myanmar watch my my Joshua Van fight news video. So shout out Myanmar. But yeah, thank you all so much. 50 subscribers. Thank you for joining me on my journey. Hopefully we get so many more of you guys in my community. And I do want to start live streaming. I kind of just have to figure out what schedule for that I'm going to be working with, or if I'm just going to be doing it randomly. And also, I might want to do that with Facecam. I don't know if I would do live with no Facecam, but I don't know if I would record videos with Facecam. I don't know if that's weird, but yeah, let me know. So, yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your reactions and your thoughts to the fight night in the comments below. Thanks so much. Bye.